Wonderful. Guys, welcome to our Wednesday night Miami edition Zoom class. I'm trying to give you guys a nice background in the back so at least you can chill out a little bit and get away from all this media and chaos that we're dealing with today, obviously. So today's class, I chose how to deal with difficult family members, how to deal with difficult people, a little bit about how to deal with, obviously conflicts with spouses and everything. It's a critical class today. The reason why it's so critical today is because obviously the amount of pressure that everybody's under, and if we don't handle the pressure correctly, it's very likely that all of a sudden one thing is dealing with pressure, next thing you know, we have major family issues, we have resentment issues, etc. So it's very, very important to know how to deal with it tonight is to recognize, just to have the right mindset. One thing about Rabbi Nachman's teachings is something very, very important you guys need to understand. I'm not telling you I'm going to take your problems away from you. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to give you a different way to look at your problems. That is really, I would say, the best way to look at it. I'm not going to tell you everything's going to be perfect in your life. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to get you in a position where you have so many amazing things in your life. And yes, you have some things that are not so great, but those things are not going to take down the whole boat. I think that's really the key. Nobody really is going to give you a recipe for 100%, a life of 100% perfectness, and everything should be perfect, and I want everything to be perfect, and my happiness is dependent upon. The purpose of Reb Nachman's classes is to give us at least hope and to give us at least a different consciousness on how to deal with these issues and recognize, okay, you know what? My life is amazing, but I have some things that are not as great as I can. But my job is not to look at that. My job is to stick with what I have. So remember, before we begin in this class, we are not here to we're not going to guarantee you to get rid of your problems. I'm not going to guarantee you to deal. David Lieberman says something very beautiful. He says it's like sometimes it's like he's talking to God like he's talking to the mafia. God, if you just took care of this one person, if you just got rid of this person in my life, I'd be so much happier. It's funny how people literally think they're talking like the mafia. Like, can this guy just disappear? Can this person just go away? My life would be so much easier. Obviously, you're not talking to the mafia. You can't talk to God like you're talking to the mafia. We can't just have people disappear in our lives. We have to change ourselves in those situations. And once you recognize that, I myself have been divorced, I got remarried, and obviously I have 5 kids. 2 of them are from my first marriage. So obviously there's definitely a lot of variables in there that would set up for conflict, of course. So again, before we start, I'm going to give you, like every other one of my classes, you're not going to have a 100% perfect day, but at least when you do crash, I'm going to help you how to get up. At least when you're dealing with different family members, okay, I have a problem with my family member, but why should it also affect my marriage? See, the problem is if you don't have the right coping skills on how to deal with this, then the family member affects your marriage, and then your marriage affects your parnasa, and your marriage affects your kids and everything. So we don't want the whole boat to sink. That's really the main tachlis that I want you guys to understand, that we have to think win-win, like the 7 habits. You have to really think, first of all, you have to be proactive. You have to recognize that don't wait for people to make the move. You have to make the move. We have to make the change. We have to make the arousal. We have to make the move first. We have to be proactive instead of being reactive in life. It's one of the things we need to understand right away. Right away, we need to be proactive people. We need to pursue peace. We need to set the proper boundaries, but we also don't want to be reactive. Reactive means we're just venting, etc. So the number one thing that I've seen with anything, and I spoke about it today, it's very important how you feel about that person. Before you want to say something to that person, change how you feel about that person. Whatever person we're dealing with, whether it's a mother-in-law, whether it's a wife, whether it's a husband, whether it's a child, whether it's a kid, if you go in there with negative feelings like, look how much sorrows you caused me, look how much stress you've caused me, look how much you put me through, and then you try to have a conversation with that person, you are not going to have any success whatsoever. The first step is, remember, we just said before, class today, feelings create thoughts. If I have a feeling of resentment towards somebody, if I have a feeling that this person has hurt me, all of a sudden 1,000 memories are going to come up to my head on all the things that person did to me. So we have to drop and surrender that feeling first. Before you even approach that person, you have to pray for it. You have to speak about it. Person who's causing you harm, etc. You have to first change. It's more important how you think about them, because if you think about a person kindly, like Rav Nachman says in Azamra, I have the power to change that person by just sending that person positive vibes, positive motions, focusing on the good points. If I change my feeling about that person, automatically it's a different ball game versus going in there and telling the person something, but inside of me, I can't stand the person. How do you change how you feel? Very simple. You have to notice the feeling first. First, you have to notice the feeling that you're feeling about that person. Like we said today in the class, you have to name it to tame it. Name. What do you feel about that person? You feel resentment? Okay, resentment comes from anger. Anger comes from you were hurt. Maybe you took something personal. So you have to really go into each feeling that you're dealing with, and you have to really surrender that feeling before you approach that person. That's why it's not working. It's not working with people that are stressed, that are angry, that are trying to talk to people. It's not working that when people have resentment. It's not working. It's not working because they are, or let's say you make a person feel guilty. The worst thing you could do is make a person feel guilty. Why? Because already he feels terrible about himself. So next thing you know, you reconfirm that he feels terrible about himself, and then he's gonna hate you because you're telling him how bad he is. So now you have two problems. You told him what he is, and also he feels himself worse, etc. Understand? So it's very, very, very important to understand that concept. Before we begin this class, change how you feel about the person before you approach that person. It makes such a difference right away. Second thing we need to understand is Hashem's irony is he puts difficult people in your life on purpose. It's not like I can go marry into this family and all my in-laws will go away. I can go into this family and all my in-laws and I don't have to deal with anybody in that family. There's actually a reason why Hashem puts difficult people in your life. It's actually an irony. He puts difficult people in your life on purpose because he wants you to refine your midot. He wants you to define your character through those people. Like the Baal Shem Tov says, if there's something that I dislike about somebody else, it's because I myself have that issue. It's my projection. Doesn't mean, now if that person doesn't bother you, then you don't have that issue. But if that person bothers you particularly, it's a good chance you have that issue. Every person Hashem puts into your life, it's to refine your personality. They're meant to strengthen your weaknesses. They're giving you a position to give mercy to somebody when you're angry. So remember, very simple. Don't shoot the message. Focus on the messenger. Whoever you marry, whatever family you're going to marry, you're going to have difficult people, guaranteed. The mindset should be, I have to transform myself instead of transform the person. Of course, we're going to talk about boundaries versus being burnt out. Of course, we're going to talk about steps. But the mindset right away should automatically be, I have to have difficult people in my life because that's ultimately going to bring me to growth. My job is to focus on the good people, and my job is also focus on unity, not, God forbid, the opposite. So remember, don't think you're going to go into a family that everybody's beautiful and everybody's calm and everything's tranquil. If I took all away your problems and I told you, let's go to Switzerland to milk goats, you probably wouldn't be happy. So we have to have some kind of stress in our lives. The big Torah that I'm going to share with you is right now. And this Torah really changed my perspective in my whole life. Once I read this Torah, it was a game changer. And this Torah is coming from an amazing book called Wisdom. Wisdom is an amazing beginner's book on Rav Nachman's life, Rav Nachman's stories. You can buy the book on Breslov.org called Wisdom. Phenomenal book. And he says something so powerful here that when you look at this, you're like, oh, I got it. And then your mindset will completely change. Rav Nachman says here that the world is full of strife. Remember, he said this 250 years ago. He doesn't know about George Floyd riots and coronavirus. He's not even talking about that. He's talking about that the whole world is full of strife. All the wars between the great powers, there are conflicts between different localities, there are feud between families, there are discord between neighbors. We all have neighbors we don't get along with. We all have people in conflicts between different neighbors in shul. There's discord. There's friction between a household, and there's a friction between a man and his wife, and between parents and children. Right now, he's telling you right now that you are a miniature world. What's going on out there, what you see what's going on out there, chaotic, is going on also in your family, by the way. Exactly mimicking the world. He says, life is short, people die every day. The day will pass and it will never return. And death comes closer every day. It's pretty deep what is Rav Nachman telling us? That the day's short. That people, what is he telling you here? What Rav Nachman's telling you is something very deep. Let's continue. But he's telling you, listen, you're going to go through these headaches. You're going to go through these situations. But don't waste all your time on this. The day's short. People die every day. What are you wasting all your time thinking about your mother-in-law or complaining about your husband or talking about your wife or fighting? Your days are short. You don't have all day to live. Your days are short. Don't sit there all day and let your problems dictate your whole life. There's a life out of you. There's a different life. And if you don't get out of your head, then your life is short. You're going to miss your whole life on a fight with your family. It's going to happen anyway. Bottom line, it's going to happen anyway. No matter who you are, I try to be Switzerland. I try to be Mother Teresa. I try to be the most peaceful person. Somehow or another, I'm just dragged into everything. And I'm like, listen, I'm teaching these classes. I'm going through this. How am I dragged into? Everybody's dragged into it. Everybody is dragged into it because what you're experiencing is a miniature world. What's exactly what's going on out there. The difference between one person and the second one is one person says, okay, I have an issue with that one. I have an issue with that one. Can't get along with everybody. And at least they enjoy the rest of their days. Other people, those fights consume their days. But people still fight and never remember the goal in life, from Nachman's telling you. Even though they know their life is short, even though that time flies, even though God knows, hopefully Mashiach will come. But what are you doing? What are you doing fighting and you don't even remember your goal in life? You're too busy arguing. You don't remember the goal in life. You don't remember the goal is to elevate your soul, to elevate, to crown Hashem. We're spending too much time on stupidity. All strife, Rav Nachman says, is identical. The friction between a family counterpart are the wars between nations. We have Democrats, we have Republicans in our family. They represent the fights between Democrats and Republicans. What you see out there is what you see inside your own house, is what you see in your own family. Each person's household is a counterpart to the world powers, and their fight and their quarrels are the wars between those powers. The traits of each nation are reflected on the individuals. Some nations are known for anger. Some nations are known for bloodthirsty. Some nations are known for resentment, cold wars. We know that the Sephardics are more in the expression. We know Ashkenazim are more resentment and inside coldness. We know we both have two different ways of dealing with it. One's passive aggressive. One's venting everything out. One's holding everything in, but we all have this. Again, I'm just joking about the nationalities. But each nationality has a specific. One wife won't talk to you, another wife will scream at you, or another husband won't talk to you, the one will scream at you. One family member just cuts you off, another family member vents all day long. This is your life. This is your life. Doesn't sound so positive. It's not that it's positive or negative. It's telling you, okay, listen, this is your life. Don't make your whole life about this. Take the energy out of it. Don't think about it. Don't dwell on it. That's why I tell people, when they tell me, listen, I don't know if I should get married, I don't know. I said, either way, you're going to get married, you're going to have these issues. It's not that you can't escape. A pregnant woman in New York will have the same labor pains as she comes to Miami. And she moves to Chicago, she'll still have the same labor pains. The labor pains don't go away because you move location, because the labor pains are internal, they're not external. The traits of each nation are also reflected in these individuals. Some nations are known for anger, etc. You may wish to live in peace, Reb Nachman tells us. You have no desire for strife. You don't want to deal with these fights. I just don't want to leave me alone. You're right, etc. Still, you are forced into dispute and conflict. Wow. Basically, Reb Nachman's telling us, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Maybe you'll have a couple of weeks of peace, get back into it again. Maybe you'll have a good month if you're lucky. Maybe you have a good hour if you're lucky. But this is your life. You can't run from it. So you're going to tell me now, okay, I hear this sounds so difficult. What should I do? Maybe I shouldn't get married. He's got a solution for you too. Nations are the same. A nation may desire peace and make many concessions to achieve it. We know people, they'll do anything. They're trying to make peace with people. They're trying to tell them, listen, I'll do this. What can I help you with? But no matter how he tries, he still ends up in a war. Two opposite sides can demand allegiance until it's drawn against his will. The same is true of every household. The Zohar says something unbelievable. Man is a miniature world. What you see in the world outside, it's happening in you, happening in your family, it's happening with your children. To expect a life of no problems, of no family problems, is already the problem. There you go. That is already the problem. The problem is you're expecting too much peace when it doesn't exist. So wanting something that doesn't exist is already the problem. So now it's an amazing concept, this concept, because now it tells me, listen, take a step back. Don't make a big deal out of it. You're never going to get guaranteed peace. So live your life. Live other things in your life. Stop talking about. Stop reinventing. Stop regurgitating. Stop talking about these people all the time. They're just sticks. They're the messengers behind the message. The message is your life is not a life of comfortable. It's not a comfortable life. This is what you were sent here. You were sent here to grow. You were sent here to thrive. And you were sent here to battle a tremendous amount of challenges, which is the ultimate goal of creation, is to crown your creator. His essence contains the world and everything in it. A man and his family contain the nations of the world, including all their battles. Now, what does Reb Nachman say for a man living alone? Let's say I don't want to deal with this. I just read this, and it sounds like no matter what, I'm not going to have permanent peace. You know what he says? A man living alone is going to become insane. So if you're single, you're going to become insane because the war is not going to be with your family. The war is going to be in your mind. The war is going to be in your mind. With him, he has all these warring nations. His personality trait at one time, he's moody, he's not moody. The constant mood swings that we go through, guys. I want to pray to Hashem. I don't want to pray to Hashem. I want to listen to a class. I don't want to listen to a class. I feel enlightened. I feel like I'm in the God bottom again. These waves that we go through, waves and waves and waves that we go through. These shifts in mood swings. I'm feeling it. I'm not feeling it. We all have to go through this. But you have one place to run to. You have to run to your Creator. When you're distressed, you have to cry out with a broken heart. You're distressed and you have no other option, nothing you could do. You have to run to your Creator. That's the only place to escape to. There's no other place to escape that's going to give you some kind of sanity today. So if you're thinking, okay, let me go to therapy 100 times and I'm guaranteed I'm not going to have any issues, don't give it too much energy. Just be. There's a great line called, be satisfied that you're going to be dissatisfied. Be satisfied that you're going to be dissatisfied. Then you no longer need to be satisfied all the time. And then it doesn't bother you. So if I'm satisfied that I'm going to be dissatisfied, it doesn't bother me so much anymore. But I'm always looking for satisfaction, and I never want to be dissatisfied, then I'm always going to be dissatisfied. Just like you're always looking for a life of comfort, and everything all day long we get challenges, and next thing you know, they get you uncomfortable, and then being uncomfortable makes you more uncomfortable, then that's the root of the problem. The root of the how your mindset should be, I have to be satisfied being dissatisfied. I have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Just like with our imperfections. The more you look for perfection, the more you'll find imperfection. But the more imperfection, you recognize everything's imperfect, nothing's perfect, then your imperfections are your perfections. This is the attitude we need to have. We need to have the attitude is don't give it too much energy. Don't give machloka too much energy. Don't give people too much energy. You can't say that person's making me angry, that person's making me sad. It's basically you're the one, your accumulated pressure is determining what that means to you. But now I already know I have to go through the war. I have to deal with this in my life. I'm going to at least have if I make peace with that person, wonderful. If I don't make peace with that person, it's also wonderful. When you have that attitude, if the deal goes through, wonderful. If it doesn't go through, wonderful. Then you're not holding on to the feeling. You're just letting go. It's okay. I tried to make peace. It didn't work out. I don't need to talk to my husband about it. I don't need to call this person. Look what they did to me. All of this lashon hara and all these things is a waste of time because you're going to go through this concept. But Rav Nachman says here that there's a strife between everybody. When Mashiach comes, all strifes will be over. So the only time we're going to have permanent peace, Rav Nachman says, is when there is Mashiach. Until then, don't expect 100% peace in your life. If you have this mindset already, you should be a lot more calmer, and you're not going to really be so upset at the people that are bothering you because you have to go through it. So I think that Torah really gives us a tremendous perspective on not giving too much energy to negative things.
Gedale, could you speak a little bit louder? The viewers are asking you to speak a little louder.
Okay, I feel like I'm screaming, but okay, no problem. Even the sound doesn't work. See, nothing's ever perfect we could see in life. Okay, so let's continue with this book called Much Better? Good, wonderful. We'll put it on Moroccan mode here. This book, again, one of my favorite writers is David Lieberman. David Lieberman is a master of relationships. Master. All his books, one is greater than the other one. I had an interview with him. But he talks about how to deal with unstable individuals. He talks about how to deal with people who don't care about their lives. You know, imagine, God forbid, having teenagers or husbands and wives that have given up on life. What do we do? What do we do with those situations? And they just give you some quick pointers that he has. So it's very important that with any of this, we have to have proper boundaries. If we don't have proper boundaries, we're going to be burnt out. Either boundaries or burnouts right away. And what he says, David, is something beautiful. A boundary doesn't tell, it's not telling the person, to do this, to do that. Basically, when you put a proper boundary to somebody, you're telling them, listen, if you do this, this is how I'm going to react. Like I've had to block some people on my phones. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm telling them, listen, if you continue to harass me, I'm going to block you on my phone. So that's a boundary. That means I'm going to make the move. I'm just telling you what I'm going to do. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to do. So the boundaries, you have to put boundaries. But the best advice for boundaries, which is I love that advice, is tell the person what you're going to do if that person crosses the threshold. Because obviously you can't be a Mr. Azamra all the time. You have to put boundaries. And if you don't put boundaries, you're going to be burnt out. Very important to understand that. So, dealing with some individuals, what advice does he have? Sometimes we fear, look what he says here, dealing with unstable individuals. It's very important that sometimes we get upset because we had a certain expectation about that person. And it's very, very important that the reason why we become aggravated, David says, is because we thought we were in a relationship. You're not in a relationship. Just because that sometimes you think you're in a relationship, but you're not really in a relationship. If that person's not able to give, then you really can't be in a relationship. So what happens is your expectation should be, you know what? Let me maximize the relationship, not cure it. Love that line. Sometimes we want to cure, we want to save the day. We want to be the Superman. We want to say, I want to fix everybody. But what you want to really, sometimes you need to do is you have to try to just maximize the relationship so it doesn't become completely toxic. But not, don't think you're always going to cure everything. Not everybody can be helped, but at least you can maximize the relationship. Very beautiful. Beautiful concept. So sometimes sometimes you can't save everybody, but you can at least, again, maximize it. Second thing he says, don't confuse intelligence with emotional intelligence. I would tell you today, it's not IQ, it's EQ. What does EQ mean? Emotional intelligence is sometimes more important than IQ. You can have a person who's very, very smart, but his emotions are all over the place. That eventually knocks out his mindset. So what you have to recognize is the way healthy individuals have proper self-esteem. How do you know a proper person has good self-esteem? Is the way he treats others and the way he treats himself. Person with healthy self-esteem. If I have healthy self-esteem, I'm going to treat you good. I'm going to treat you well. But when I don't have proper self-esteem, what am I going to say? How could you love me if I don't love myself? So sometimes people will sabotage their relationships because they say, how can somebody love me? When I don't love myself, how could somebody love me? So they don't even think they're worthy of love. So it's very important that our self-esteem is the direction that we go. So you want to, when you're looking for people in your life, you're looking at people to marry, it's very important that don't look, oh, he's so smart. Yeah, I know people are so smart, but they have no muna, all day long they're smoking, and they have no way of coping with things. Yeah, he's brilliant, but that doesn't mean he's going to do anything. You want a person with healthy self-esteem. A person with healthy self-esteem is able to, has the capacity to give, has the capacity to give up, to get up quickly, has the capacity not to run away from every single situation in his life. So it's very, very important, this concept. So again, focus more on self-esteem versus intelligence. Sometimes we get very confused with that. Very, 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 very confused with that. It's very important to deal with, like when you're dealing with people, David says, give them a sense of control. If you tell them what to do, they're not going to probably do it. But have them make the decisions. Make them like a customer. You never tell a customer, buy that. Will you tell a customer, what do you think, what would you like me to do for you? All of a sudden, when you do that, you're not telling them what to do, you're giving them power. And then once you're giving them power, you give them power, that usually will help you, that it doesn't sound like you're trying to take advantage of them and that stuff. So again, dealing with difficult people, there's definitely a attack. Time-wise, how you do it, the way you do it, time-wise, etc. Another thing that I love that I love is from the 7 habits, how to deal with difficult people. The 7 habits of successful people. He talks about that being proactive, how important it is to be proactive. Like, anytime you're dealing with difficult people, anytime you're dealing with situations in life that are very difficult, you have to be proactive. And the second thing is you have to begin with the end in mind. It's very important. Begin with the end in mind. What do you want out of this conversation? What do you want? You can't just go into a conversation. Like I say, you can never win an argument. But what do you want out of this conversation? What do you want? What do you want? Peace? You want to make the sale? You want to make the person happy? You want the person to leave you alone? Begin with the end in mind instead of just going into a conversation and getting involved in, a complete argument over the same thing over and over. When you begin with the end in mind, you have a strategy, and then you properly can give a proper timeline. Okay, I want to be in this argument for 10 minutes. I want to be in the situation for 10 minutes. I know exactly what I'm going to tell them, and I know how to exit. Because if you get stuck in that situation forever, you're going to get stuck. Another thing he says is put first things first. When you begin with the end, another thing from the 7 habits, put first things first. Don't just go, well, you did this to me, and you did that to me, and you did this, and how about 20 this? I can't forget. It's too all over the place. There's no strategy. It has to, okay, I want to deal with issue A. Now let's deal with issue B. Now let's deal with issue C. It has to have some kind of order when you do it. And another thing he says is seek to understand, then to be understood. Look at that. That in Kabbalah refers to the concept of Hod. That means when you're speaking to difficult people, first seek to understand them, and then not seek to be understood. The difference is when I'm trying to understand you, I'm listening to you. People like people who they can rapport. People like people who pay attention to them. If you have to even mirror them, make them feel like you're listening to them, instead of saying, I need to be understood. When you're understood, you interrupt them. So you basically you can mess up the whole flow of the conversation. So this is when you're dealing with situations of regular people, family members. Now, what do you do with a situation where you have a person who lost his self-esteem, and they don't want to put an effort in the marriage? God forbid they're depressed. God forbid they're in a very bad situation, or God forbid they gave up. And between you and me, it's not an easy thing today. A lot of people are going through tremendous amount of stress. But what do you do? How do you connect to those people? And he says here, Reb Nachman has a beautiful story called The Turkey Prince. That when you're dealing with people who lost their self-esteem, okay? Give me 1 second. Let me just find it. 1 second. Before we get to that, he has a couple of advices on how to communicate with your spouse. First thing he says is it's very important that we remove any kind of resentment. Number one thing with any spouses, the number one thing before you communicate, remove resentment. Resentment is the number one thing. The second thing is, he says, it's very important to pick a time with them. Pick a time and a mood for that person. Don't always start with a compliment and then go into the conversation. Don't just go into a random situation. And the worst thing you could do when you're dealing with an argument, when you're dealing with a spouse, is very simple. Is bring up the past. When you bring up the past, basically you are dealing with the situation, and it's going to constantly continue. So let's continue with one more thing before we can take some questions. That what does he say here with dealing with people who are stuck on the ground, or people who have given up, or teenagers, etc. So the first thing you need to do with them, just give me 1 second, guys. 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay, here. So Rav Nachman speaks about this concept called the Turkey Prince. The Turkey Prince is basically about a story who a prince had a child, and the child was acting crazy. He went underneath the table, and he started acting like a turkey. They called all the doctors. They called all the therapists. Nobody could heal him until they basically got the tzaddik or the wise man came over. And what did he do? What did he do? Instead of telling him what to do, he went underneath the table with the tzaddik, with the turkey. And what did he do? He went underneath the table, and he told him, "Listen, I'm a turkey. You're a turkey too." So little by little, not to go too crazy on the story, is to basically he started putting on a shirt, and next thing you know, he started putting on pants, but he still said, "I'm a turkey." And little by little, he was able to climb up and go on top of the table. So basically, David Lieberman has a beautiful story on how to help somebody who's really, really struggling and who doesn't really have any motivation to live or motivation to do anything. And what he says is the first component with anybody you're dealing with, family members, is unconditional love. Don't make it like it's your project. Oh my God, I got to take care of it. He's causing me such headaches. My husband's causing me such headaches. My child is off to there. Look at the stars he's putting it to. That's not unconditional love. That is, again, you're talking down at him. You have to go underneath the table with him. You have to literally go underneath the table with the person because you have to build what is called rapport. Go underneath the table, connect with him. If you don't connect with him and you just tell him what to do, he's gonna despise you for making him feel more guilty, and he's already guilty enough. So not only is he gonna hate himself, he's gonna hate you because you're making him feel guilty. So the first thing is don't look for anything, but just get underneath the table. Sit there and talk like a turkey, just like him. It's a huge concept. Talk like a turkey. Don't criticize. Go downstairs. The second thing you need to do is you need to create him just like the Turkey Prince put on a shirt. He has to start with one thing at a time. Some people that are very stuck in life, they get overwhelmed. They take on too many things at one time. So what should you do? Put on one thing at a time. Put the shirt on. People that are depressed, they're overwhelmed because they're stacking all their problems. They don't see an end out because what happens? They can't get going. So you just want to get that person to get going. How do you let him going? The number one thing is getting him to put on a shirt. You could tell him, listen, he should put on pants. He's naked. No, because it's easier to put on a shirt. So you want to start with people with a small win. Because if you ever want to change people, the number one thing to change people is you have to get them to feel better about themselves. Once they feel better about themselves, they'll invest in themselves. But if a person doesn't feel good about himself, why would he put an effort in himself? So it's very important psychologically. It's the compound means if I start loving me, I'll invest in me. But once I say, what am I worth? Why should I even invest in me? So the first step is get underneath the table. The second one is get him to do a small win. The second thing is one thing at a time. Don't overwhelm him. If you're in a very dark room in life and all of a sudden the guy's in darkness and you open up the shades and say, what's wrong with you? Wake up. You're going to blind the person. The person has no light. It's too much light for that person. Imagine you're sleeping 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and somebody tells you, wake up. They open up the shades and you get blinded by the light. So sometimes too much light, not in the right position, is the right thing. We speak about this all the time with people in addiction that had bad parents that were Orthodox, or bad parents, or a rabbi that scarred them, or situations in their life that they had emotional harm due to a rabbinical figure or a father figure. So their solution really is to do the 12 steps, because the 12 steps is talking about spirituality, even though it's the highest Torah. But if I tell him, listen, you got to learn this Mishnah, you got to learn this Gemara, he's going to be nauseous by it. But if you tell him, listen, you got to do the 12 steps, okay, I'll do the 12 steps. It's spirituality. It's not Torah, but it's spirituality. Then little by little, it's like the same concept as the Turkey Prince. You're literally picking him up and you're lifting him up through spirituality. Once you get to spirituality, then he'll get to the Torah. The second thing is you have to recognize, the third thing is you have to recognize that you have to create structure for that person. So again, small wins over time become momentum. Momentum goes by itself. It's so important with dealing with people who are struggling, create small wins. Don't rush the process. Too much light without the proper time is going to be a breaking of the vessels. So remember, get underneath the table with him, hold his hand, let him get going with a couple small wins, one thing at a time. Don't give him too much light, and get him to a position where he starts getting into flow. Once he gets into flow, it moves by itself. But once he stops, then he's going to say, you see, it didn't work. So it's very important. Sometimes as parents, sometimes as friends, we don't have the patience for this person. We're burnt out. So if we make it like a project, they feel like we're a burden on them. So you have to say, no, we're doing this together. You're not burdening me. We're doing this together. And and believe me, it works. Being in the world of recovery, you have to first tell the person the importance of how great they are, that they're really not their addiction. They're the consciousness behind their addiction. They're not their body. They're the consciousness behind their body. You have to give people hope, because if you don't give people hope, they're gonna be like, why would I do this if you're telling me I'm already guilty? I already feel guilty enough. I don't need you to tell me that I'm already guilty. It's just going to kill the person. So that is today's class. I'm happy to take some questions. And Mizrat Hashem, we gave tremendous strategies. Again, I can go all night, but another book I recommend is Never Get Angry Again by David Lieberman. It's another phenomenal book. Never Get Angry Again. Again, it talks about strategic tools on how to help people dealing with conflict, etc.
Okay.
Any questions, Ariel?
Yeah, of course. Just quickly, I made a mistake with one of the donors' names. Esther Bat Rivka Malka for the right Shiruch Bakarov. Okay. The first question.
But also remember, being that you guys are looking for Shidduchim, I just read that Torah from Rabbi Nachman. Don't expect a family with a picket fence and a dog and a rabbit and no problems. Don't expect it. Don't expect it. Obviously, you need good midot, but somebody's not going to be 100% perfect. So just understand that. You need to understand that. And the way we deal with difficult people also, guys, is through prayer. Because prayer transforms you. Prayer makes you look at mercy in that person instead of, God forbid, hate. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this question is coming from a viewer who has cousins who are jealous of everything this person does, and they have evil eye towards her or him.
Right,
so
right.
This person wants to know what they should do and how to get over this issue.
Good. Excellent question. Evil eye, unfortunately, is extremely common because when people don't feel good about themselves, the first thing they do is they look at their neighbors. So the first thing is obviously recognize that Reb Nathan says the way to beat an evil eye is to focus on the good in that person. Send them a good eye. When you send them a good eye, it kills the evil eye, which is like reverse psychology. So obviously, two options you have. Either run away from them, or if you're going to deal with them still, send them a good eye. Give them a compliment. You'd be surprised that when you give somebody who you don't like or there's friction, when you throw them a compliment, you kill them with kindness, all of a sudden they change completely the way they think of you. You got to throw a curveball. But the number one thing is definitely throw them a good eye. Also, another thing, the evil eye. Everything that we have in this world is borrowed. This pool is borrowed, this house is borrowed, this shirt is borrowed. So if somebody's giving an evil eye, just say, it's Hashem. Hashem gave me a gift. Bezrat Hashem. Todah Hashem. It's all Hashem. Everything's borrowed. Your watch is borrowed. So evil eye, you're giving evil eye to Hashem. It's not mine. It's all, we're here in this world, in a temporary world. It's all borrowed. You have to pretend like your whole life is borrowed. When people give you an eye, what are they giving me an eye? It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with Hashem. You could only get an evil eye in life when somebody says, hey, nice car. Yeah, I did the car. That's my car. Yeah, it's my shirt. Yeah, you like it? When you say I, that activates the evil eye. But if somebody tells you, nice shirt, you're a good speaker, I say, Hashem. Hashem gave me a gift. Hashem gave me a car. What is it me? I'm just a borrower. Then it can't affect you. So I would say, number one is recognize everything you have is temporary. It's all borrowed from Hashem. Second one is throw them a good eye. like Reb Natan says, and that will contact the evil eye. And don't worry about having fear of evil eye, because then now you have two problems. Now you're not fixing the evil eye issue. Now you're attracting problems because of a false fear.
Gedalia, could you just repeat the last book that you mentioned by David Lieberman?
Never get angry again. Never get angry again.
Okay. The next question is coming from a viewer. Why do you say that everyone is going to have specifically in-laws and family issues in any way you choose, and that you can't avoid it? I understand strife in general is inescapable. However, everyone is blessed and cursed in different respects of life. Not everyone will have family issues. If I misunderstood you, I'm sorry, but is this person wrong? That's basically what they want to know.
No, that's what Reb Nachman says. And I've been through one divorce. I've been through a second one. And believe me, I have tools. I have all the tools in the world to try to make peace. And sometimes I try. I wake up for Hatzot. I beg. I give charity. I'm still dragged into it, no matter what happens. Doesn't mean it happens in your in-laws. It could be an aunt, be an uncle. That's what Reb Nachman says. It's not my thing. I'm just saying what he says. That no matter what you're going to go through, you're going to have some issues. The key is what he's saying here. Don't make a big deal out of it. It's okay. You have an issue? Okay. Big deal. Live your life. He's not telling you to magnify it, talk about it all day long. He's going to tell you it's going to happen. Move with your life. Don't make your whole life about these things. That's the point that Reb Nachman's telling us here. Don't make your whole life about one person or one. Don't worry about it, because it's going to happen to you. It's just going to happen to you. Believe me, I don't know if you're married yet or you're not married yet, but believe me, it'll come to you. And you think people change, people start saying, nobody has a life of tranquilo mentality. Somebody in the family, something's happening that is aggravating. Why? Because it's only for you. It's for you to run to your creator.
Okay, the next question. This person wants to know if you could recommend some books that are for beginners for Breslovs. Rabbi
Yeah, I just pointed out this one called Wisdom. Wisdom. This is a phenomenal book. Wisdom. Rabbi Nachman's Wisdom. This is a great beginner book. It talks about his life. It talks about his sayings. Another book you can buy is the Aleph Bet, Crossing the Narrow Bridge. Go to Breslov.org. Breslov.org, and he's got all the books there. He's got all the books there, and he has it from beginners to all that. So I would recommend that.
Okay, another viewer just
wants wisdom, definitely wisdom for sure. Wisdom is phenomenal. That's the one I took. That's the one that I took that Torah from today.
But the book that got you into Breslov was Advice, correct?
Advice, yes. I'm sorry, you're right. Advice is another phenomenal one. Correct. Hey, you're listening, Ariel. Good.
So the next question, the viewer just wants to make sure that they understood you the right way. Just to make sure I understood you the right way, if you feel extremely burnt out, that means it is a big possibility that it's time to move on, correct? Question mark.
Burnt out in what way? I'm sorry.
I don't know. Hopefully they'll get
Sometimes when you're burnt out, sometimes when you're burnt out, you need to take a break. You're overwhelmed, and you need to start all over. Doesn't mean you need to take a break. You need to take a break. Being burnt out means a few things. It means that you are holding too much accumulated pressure inside of you. This happened to me last week. I got to a point where I have, like, this weekend, I'm going away. I'm having a small getaway because it's just too much accumulated pressure that I need to take a break. So we all need to take a break. So anytime you have too much accumulated pressure, what does that mean? When you're getting moody, when you're getting irritable at people, that's a sign that you're holding in too much. Why do you think this whole week I'm talking about letting it go? Because I'm talking about myself. You should know the classes that I speak about, it's my life. If I'm talking about that, I'm going exactly through that. If I'm talking about this, I'm going exactly through this. I'm living the Torah. It's not like I can read a book and say, page 3, page 4. No, this is This is live. It's a live thing. That's why it's so much easier for me to give these classes, because it's something I'm living. It's not something I'm not sitting in a puppet. I'm telling you, this is the problem that we all have. We have too much accumulated pressure. We're holding in too much, and we're not letting go of these feelings. You just got to let go. Got to let go. You got to surrender these things. That's the most important thing, is to let go of this pressure, because believe me, when you let go of that pressure, your whole attitude changes. You're much nicer. People don't bother you as much. You're less likely to panic. But when you're holding in so much pressure, everybody becomes a pressure cooker for you. And you're just venting out all day long. And it's not good for you. Not good for you.
So the viewer got back to us in regards to being burnt out. It's in regards to their marriage partner.
Oh, right. Sounds like the thunder, this marriage. Again, we have to go into more details. If he wants, he can reach out to me on WhatsApp just to get a little more details about being burnt, what burnt out means. For example, if I take everything personal, and every time my wife tells me to do something, and I'm taking and making everything about me, then I'm going to be burnt out, because I take everything personal. But I realize that she's out there to help me. You understand? Doesn't mean you're burnt out. It just means you're handling it the wrong way. You're internalizing too much pressure. What we really need to do is, you need to call me. We can set something up, and I need to get more into the details of specifically what is burnt out mean. Some people tell you, listen, she's verbally abusive. He's verbally abusive, and all they're telling you is move the oranges from the table. What are you telling me what to do? I just told you to move the oranges from the table. I'm not verbally abusing you. You always tell me what to do. But this is a sign that person's holding in too much pressure. They're holding in too much pressure, and that's what's happening.
Okay. The next.
I hope you guys enjoy the fire show, the light show here.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that the lightning it wakes up the heart. No.
Exactly. Beautiful. It wakes up the heart. And maybe just in case somebody wants to do a protest, Miami, we get the rain. We wash everybody out over here.
Okay. The next question. It seems like it's a mother or a father. It said they said that I have a daughter who is engaged and has been very difficult to deal with. She is very materialistic and only sees our value as how much we can give her. We gave her a lot, but she's keep demanding more and more, and is threatening not to visit us after her marriage. How do we deal with this?
That's a problem. The problem is somebody who's very materialistic. Obviously, there's a problem with self-esteem, because they always need more to be happy. And sometimes you really can't make that person happy. I mean, what else are you going to give them? So it could be a problem. It could be a problem because at the end of the day, you can give what you can give. But if somebody needs money to make them happy, then there's never going to be enough. Tomorrow it's this ring, tomorrow it's in that ring. So it's a sign that person really is not feeding their soul. They're very materialistic. They need, especially during these times. This whole Corona thing was to wake up everybody and to tell everybody, wake up already. Money's not the end of the world. Money's not, the whole world is about money. Obviously, businesses were closed. So it's very hard to make a person who's very materialistic happy, because there'll never be enough to it. So you got a tough situation. If they don't want to visit you, nothing you could do.
So one of the other viewers came in and said that the parents need to set boundaries.
For sure. Exactly. 100%. Like I said before, boundaries or burnouts. End of story. You have a boundary or you're going to be burnt out. So I would set proper boundaries. I would tell her, listen, this is what we can give, and that's it. Like a wedding. You go to a wedding. I want this. This is my budget. You like it or not, that's all I can do. Same thing before. But it's really the sign that she really needs more spirituality in her life. It's only materialism.
So continuing with boundaries, there's a question here. By putting boundaries, you must say to that person verbally or in a non-verbal way.
Verbally. You have to tell them, listen, I can only do this. You tell that person, listen. I mean, I've had to put major boundaries on people. People call me all the time. I say, listen, I can't speak to you. If you continue to call me, I can't block your number. There's got to be a little bit of, there's got to be boundaries. End of story. I mean, many people have had to block. They had no boundaries. And they called me at 12 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. I have a wife. I have kids. I can't have these calls. There's boundaries. You have to tell them, if you call me, I'm going to block you.
And the question follows up with, because not always is it possible to say something straight out to someone. Maybe this person has a communication issue here.
So you have to say, again, like I said, you guys, there's 2 books I'd recommend is by David Lieberman. I think he's on the line. Seek Peace and Pursue It, and Never Get Angry Again. He's got so many strategies in these books exactly on how to put boundaries, steps on boundaries. Just to get more into the details, I strongly recommend his books on dealing with people. But I would tell them, you tell them, I'm going to act like this. I have clients, listen, if you continue to act like this, I have to refer you to another facility. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this if you continue. You can do what you want, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. That's a proper boundary. When you tell the person what you're going to do.
We're getting a lot of questions with boundaries here. Another question is, how can you help a spouse to set boundaries and set up routines for themselves?
The problem with a lot of this is there has to be 2 people in the game. And that's one of the toughest things I see in people in relationships, when there's no 2 people that want it. Because if 2 people don't want it, how could you really? People have to want it. They have to want peace. I can't get peace if the person doesn't want peace. It's not going to work out. That's the bottom line. There has to be the intent and the will for peace. But if people don't want peace, they don't care, then sometimes you have to call it a quit. Listen, unfortunately, I had to do that in the first marriage. It just didn't work out. The will was not there. Not everything is going to go perfect. We have to be ready. But the whole point of this class is, don't get stuck not living the rest of your life because of people. Don't let them ruin your days. He's telling you right now, the day is short. People die every day. The day's short. Remember when he's telling you that. The day's short. Live the moment. Live the days. Don't get stuck on this minutia. Oh, regurgitate the same things over and over. Put a boundary. I help you. I can help you. But live your life. That's the core of this thing. Because people sometimes, they go to therapy 20 years. They go to these things 20 years. Their whole life is consumed with this issue. They shut down because of these issues. That's what I'm not telling you. I'm telling you these things. Go ahead.
Okay. Is a partner who constantly requires attention and texting, is that a sign of deeper problems?
Constant attention and texting?
Correct. Requires.
No, they just man. Right, but sometimes partners need to feel more love. I don't know if that's such a problem all the time. Some people need to feel validated that they need to show more love. Some women, you need to show them more love. If a person is very emotional, she wants a person to be very have a lot of attention, and she needs the validation constantly.
Okay.
Some women, they require you to say, I love you every morning by text. Some don't care. Depending on the personality of the person.
Getting back to boundaries, how do you deal with a spouse who takes your boundaries as threats?
Then you have an issue. Again, this all starts with accumulated pressure. I hate to repeat again. It's all the past, the accumulation. It's all the resentment. If a guy, listen to me. If a person doesn't know how to deal with his emotions, let's say he's going to work, and his business is off 35%. And next thing you know, he's holding that pressure in. And he's holding that pressure in. How do you expect that person to have a proper communication? It's not possible. He's holding in so much pressure from work. You're going to tell him something. He's going to snap at you. He's going to blame you for bothering him, for spending too much money. The guy that's down 35% on his business automatically is going to say 2 things. He's going to come home. He's going to be stressed out. He's going to hold in the pressure. If he's not dealing with those emotions properly, next thing you know, he's going to tell you, you're the cause of all her financial problems because you spent too much money. And there goes the disaster. Do you understand? The disaster relationship, disaster shalom bayit. Now, next thing you know, he didn't deal with the pressure properly. Now he's blaming you because that's how he's venting his feelings. Now you feel hurt, and it just becomes a whole cholent of machochet, cholent of strife. So it's very important that we know how to deal with all the pressure that we are going through today. If you're dealing with your kids on Zoom all day long, and you're holding on, and you're stressed out, and then all of a sudden your husband says, "What's for dinner?" What do you guys have? What do you do all day? Look, I'm with the kids all day. Go order what? You understand? That answer did not come from a good place. That answer came from frustration that your kids are not in school. So what have you snapped at your husband when all he asked you is what's for dinner? So we really have to work on this. We really, really have to work on these issues. We really have to work on these issues of internal pressure, because Hashem does not like a person who blames people. Like what happened with Adam? Adam himself, he felt guilty. He felt guilty that what he did, and he blamed his wife. His feelings were he accumulated pressure instead of saying I made a mistake. So we have to really be careful. You're not going to have good relationships if there's accumulated pressure, because you're going to say that this person's always stressing you out. And we already said stress is never internal. It's never external. It's always internal. So the fact that I'm getting stressed out by that person is because I have accumulated pressure inside. That is where it's causing the stress, is my accumulation of pressure. If you're a water sign, like a Scorpio, Cancer, or Pisces, you feel everything. You feel so emotional. If you don't really work on these things, you're just so emotional, and so much resentment and so much buildup, and that's what's causing everybody to snap out like this. That's why I'm recommending the book "Letting It Go" by elevating your conscience, David Hawkins, because it really teaches you how to go into bittul. It teaches you really how to get rid of all of the buildup that's happening. It's just too much right now. There's just way too much buildup going on in the world right now, especially with what we're going through. You know.
Okay. This next question is a person who has a friend who has insecurity issues and gets into lashon hara and is very pushy. She doesn't want to, deal with the negativity, but their children get along well. So how does she control this negativity that's involved with their friendship?
I would change the subject. Change the subject. Or say this, I heard this class, you should read this book. It's a great book. I was struggling with this. It's very hard to tell somebody you're speaking lashon hara. Just change the subject.
In one of your previous classes, you mentioned just say, "I don't have time for this. Like I'm too busy."
I know, but you're gonna be defensive. But they're gonna maybe you'll put them down. I would just change the subject. Change the subject.
Got it. The next question.
Talk about the lightning in Florida. Go ahead.
The next question is coming from a person who is divorced. They want to know if it's beneficial to marry someone who's also divorced.
No, nothing wrong with it, as long as they're working on themselves, and they're spiritually, they have been awakening and they learn. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with the divorced person, as long as he's able to be emotionally healthy. How does he deal with his issues? How does he deal with his past? Is he holding in pressure? Is he holding in resentment? Nothing wrong with it. Of course not.
Okay. The next question: when someone has difficulty with some people and the same problem repeats itself over and over, is that issue coming from Hashem? And
yes.
Okay. And if you're truly good-hearted person, why is that happening?
Coming from Hashem. It's to teach you a sign. It's to give you a sign. It's Hashem's trying to wake you up. It's your higher Elyon, your Das Elyon, your higher consciousness, giving the lower consciousness the signal that something needs to be changed. Doesn't mean you're a good-hearted person. You're not going to have challenges. Believe me, I think I'm a nice guy and good-hearted. I have tons of challenges. Doesn't mean you're good-hearted. Let's confuse the thing with problems and challenges. It's not a problem. It's a challenge. Hashem wants you to grow. He wants you to grow through this issue. You get me?
So challenges help you grow, while problems.
Yeah, you can't say because I'm a good-hearted person, I'm getting victimized. Don't say that. You have to get challenged in order to grow. You
So
have to understand that concept. Don't say you're getting problems because you're a good-hearted person. It doesn't mean anything. One thing's a good heart. Another thing is challenges. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen to you. It's gonna happen. That's how you run to Hashem. We run to Hashem with our challenges. We scream out to Him. Otherwise, I'm not gonna scream. I only scream out to my Creator when I feel like I can't do anything else in my power. I'm in so much pain that I don't know what to do. I throw my hands up and I say, help. That is the purpose of a challenge. When you get to a point where you tried everything. You tried absolutely everything. And you say, Hashem, here you go. Here's the burden. I'm casting it to you. You deal with this issue. That's what He wants from you.
So
Wants you to throw it up. Cast your burden onto your Creator.
So when the challenge turns into a problem, that's when you cast it to Hashem?
When you recognize that you're doing everything you can and it's out of your hands and you really can't get to that next level, you have to just go into. If I have an issue where I'm trying to fix a midah and I can't fix it, every time somebody talks to me, I get angry and I pray for it and it's not working out. I have to say, Hashem, I'm powerless over this midah. I'm powerless over it. I need you to help me because I'm completely powerless over the situation.
Okay. This is coming from a viewer that recently broke up with their partner, and
Sorry to hear that.
their partner was very wishy-washy about the relationship for many months and not sure if she
Right.
would commit. Now this person regrets making the decision at this point, and they don't want to, talk to them. What are some ways of letting go of this regret?
You have to say that everything Hashem does is for a reason, and you're not going to understand everything. The essence of knowledge is that we don't know anything. The more you know in life, the more you recognize, oh my God, I don't know anything. That's the whole point. So it's a paradox. The more I know, the more knowledge I know, the more I recognize, oh my God, I don't know anything. I thought I knew, but now that I know more, I don't know anything. What does that mean to tell you? That there's many times that we've been upset by things in life and we labeled it bad or good or etc. So we have to recognize that there's a much deeper happening, that life is happening for you, not to you. Life is always happening for your benefit. It's not happening against you. Don't look at it like a victim. Say it's happening for your benefits. Even these riots, if you look at it, they were happening for our benefits because what did these riots do? They created COVID to almost go away. And they recognized, wow, COVID is not as big deal as you thought it was. Because if we don't, we're sitting there like this and no, you can't go here, you can't go here. But next thing you know, there's hundreds of thousands of people riot on the streets, no social distancing. So even the riots were a great favor from Hashem for our benefit. How else is Hashem going to get hundreds of thousands of people on the street to take away the scare of COVID that most people had? So think about that. He's always doing everything for our benefit. We need to always say that. Hashem's love is infinite, but sometimes we don't have the kalim, the vessels to receive such love. So we have to ask for help.
Okay, the next question is coming from a viewer. She wants to know, what if the mother is causing a lot of the insecurities that controls the person? It's making her very insecure, and it's having an impact on her marriage.
Sure.
And she's starting to disrespect her husband the same way her mother did with her father. And she doesn't want to be controlled, and she's starting to realize it. As much as she loves her mother, she wants to know what she could do and make sure it doesn't affect her marriage.
Right. Well, listen, some people are control freaks because they have no control themselves, so they control other people. But you can't really prevent that. Nobody can make you feel any feeling. You understand? It's the way you feel about yourself. Somebody's trying to control you. You understand? You have to set proper boundaries. But nobody can make you angry. Nobody can make you this. Nobody can make you sad. Nobody can make you anything. It's the way you interpret that situation. It's the way you feel about yourself. So if somebody's very sad is trying to control you, you have to pray for them and say, wow, I feel so sorry for that person. It's almost like a guy going to work and all day long he's angry and worried, and I would feel sorry for that person because he doesn't understand that he can't control anything, and he's trying to control things that are beyond his imagination, his abilities. So you have to recognize that that person cannot control, and don't take it personal. You have to set boundaries, but at the end of the day, nobody can cause one person to have another emotion. Bottom line. If you feel secure by yourself, nobody can make you feel insecure. But if you don't feel insecure, if you feel insecure by yourself, then people are just going to hit that trigger to validate that feeling.
Okay. The next question is in regards to marriage. So when someone is working on themselves to change themselves and to make things work in their marriage, and they're praying and they're continually working on it, but nothing is changing and they're getting burnt out, is that a sign that they need to move on and get divorced?
But the burning, it shouldn't be a burnt out, because if I'm changing with somebody, if I'm trying to work on my marriage and the other person is that means I really haven't surrendered that feeling. I'm still having fear over that feeling. You understand? Even though I'm trying, but I'm not really trying to connect to Hashem. Let's say people tell you all the time that they're burnt out from praying. It's a very common thing. People tell you, I'm burnt out from praying. I don't have the head for it anymore. It's because when you approach prayer, you went there with tons of expectations. You went to pray to get instead of connect. So this person also is, maybe they had expectations that it was going to work quicker. It didn't work quicker, so they got into a hopeless mindset. So it doesn't mean you shouldn't feel burnt out. You just say, you know what? I made a decision that I don't know if this is going to be the right situation. Maybe I do have to move on. But you should never make a decision based on burnt out. It should be with a settled mind. It should be with dots. It shouldn't be on an emotion of being burnt out.
Okay.
You understand? Burning out means I have too much expectations. My expectations did not get met. So that's why I'm burnt out. I'm burnt out because of my expectations. But if I go in there with no expectations, how can I be burnt out in prayer? How can I be burnt out helping somebody? I'm only burnt out helping somebody if I went in there with expectations. But once you let go of the expectations, you let go and you're just saying, I'm doing it as in connecting to my soul, then I'm not going to have that issue. You understand?
Okay. We have some meditation questions. Could we take some meditation questions?
You can take medication questions, meditation questions. You can do whatever you want.
Is there a reliable guide that could be used for Hitbodedut practice? This person has been experienced with meditation from Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan's Jewish meditation.
Sure.
But the person feels blocked and wants to know what other books he could read.
Let me see for meditation.
Openly.
I think Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi Brody, Rabbi Rush had a book called The Force Field. But you know why it's so important, the difference between meditation and Bodhidut? Because what would I be doing in his Bodhidut if I would be that person? I would be saying, Hashem, I feel blocked. That's exactly his Bodhidut. His Bodhidut is to tell Hashem how you feel at that moment, and to express your distance from him, and to express the fact that you want to get closer to him, to express your yearning, to express your desire to want to speak. That is his Bodhidut. You understand? It's his Bodhidut. It's telling Hashem what's on your heart at every single moment. You understand? Like I just did his Bodhidut on that guy, on that person who possessed me. That's what I say. Hashem, I am here with a blocked heart. I want to meditate. I want to have a settled mind. You told us the greatness of having a settled mind, but words are not coming out. I feel like I'm stuck in Egypt. I'm surrounded with darkness. Help me. Then the words will come to you. The words come when a person wants a desire, when a person wants to get closer to his creator. That's when the words come. They come with when the person has a sense of urgency. You understand?
Okay. I have a question here.
I hope that helped. But there's a book called The Forest Field, or I have a lot of classes on his Bodhidut. I explain the process in a lot.
It's about in-laws. and this person wants to know, what do you do if your husband is being forced with boundaries set by their parents, and
Sure.
and this
It's an
person
issue, yeah.
and this person is trying very hard to be nice to her in-laws, and she feels like she has a good relationship with them, but it's not good enough for them, and it's
Right.
affecting her marriage, and the parents have been
Right.
controlling him ever since he was single, before he was married.
Right. Correct. So the
And
guy has a problem, and his problem, like the Torah says, you have to cling to your wife. You have to make your wife 100% number one. Then your in-laws, then your parents, 100%. Your wife, it says, leave your house, leave your father's house, and marry your wife. Cling to your wife. You have to pick your wife over your parents 100% of the time. This is the biggest problem. One of the biggest problems people have is they want to respect their parents, but at the end of the day, you have to respect the second half of your soul over your in-laws and parents. Of course, you have to be respectful, but what you number one is you have to cling to your wife. The Torah says it black and white. It's a commandment. You have to cling to your wife before parents, before family member, before anything. Because if you don't cling to your wife, everything else is just going to be. She's always going to feel number two, and when she feels number two, resentment, more problems, and it just goes south from there. So cling to your wife. It's very important. That's the number one commandment. That's one of the commandments that we have. Okay? I
so,
think we'll take one more question and we'll wrap it up.
yeah, I have a question myself. So how much do you have to cling? I'm assuming that some people don't want to have that much attention, but at the same time, how do you know enough is enough in terms
You always have to give. Remember, when I'm talking to my wife, I'm talking to the second half of me. The wife is the moon, the man is the sun. He has to make her feel like she's the only person in the world. That is the Torah's commandment. That's Rabbi Rush's advice. You have to make your wife feel like she's the only person in the world. That's the law. It's not my law. It's not something I've invented. That is the law. Because once you do that, and she feels number one, then she'll let you do whatever you want for the rest. But if you don't make her number one, then what happens? Everything else you do, what's going to happen? Oh, you see, that's more important than you. 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 It's not an easy thing to do. But once you make her number one, you're going to get blessing in everything else. But when you make her number two, everything else is going to be a competition against her. So you have to understand that she wants to be number one. That's how she's wired. That's how she's wired. And the fact that she's happy, what do you think happens when she's happy? That's why sages say that Parnasa comes on account of his wife. It becomes on the feminine side of the soul. So he gets the benefit from him being nice to her. He gets the benefit from him giving her the light. Good?
sounds good. Thank
Good.
you.
I know it's tough for Persian families and Bukharians. They got deep roots with families, but you have to have that separation. You have to respect 100%, 100%. But the wife comes 100% first. I think every rabbi is going to tell you this. Every book I've read has been pretty much the same thing, especially Rabbi Rush. He really emphasizes this. Again, we wish the whole month, B'ezrat Hashem, for Talia Bat Adi.
Correct.
We should have this main class is in her honor, that she should have only Yeshuot, and you should have a breakthrough for the shakers, of a breakdown for the shakers of the breakthrough. Okay?
Just quickly, one of the viewers
Yes.
recommended a book. It's called The Fifth Commandment: Honoring Parents, Laws, Inside Stories, and Ideas by Rabbi Moshe
Beautiful.
Lieber. I'll post the link right now.
Sure, beautiful. I haven't read it, but Rabbi Rush's books are basically all about that. That the wife is a spiritual mirror, that she's really the one that has to get the light. Okay? Have a very nice night.
Thank you, Gedale.
Bye.